Hello, everybody, and good morning for me. Welcome to Pivot Point DFS, presented by FanDuel on the Believe Network, part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network. I am your host, Keith Cork, and I am here to break down another NBA Cup slate, a Friday, November 7th NBA Cup slate, which I didn't really plan. So I was going to do a show a couple of days ago, but unfortunately my mother-in-law is in town. She was under the weather, so literally sleeps in the room right here next to where I record my podcast. So I didn't want to wake her up. I didn't want to be a jerk, so I decided to forego. I was going to do a Wednesday show, I believe, for the Thursday slate, or maybe it was Tuesday for Wednesday, whatever it was. Didn't work out, but we are here now, and we're going to talk about all the good stuff we have going on for this is an interesting slate. I will say that much. A lot of what I like is later in the slate, which is nice because it gives us the option for a late swap. If you guys aren't late swapping, you are not doing NBA DFS correctly. NBA DFS relies a lot on late swaps, so you really need to be doing that. What's a late swap? It's just having people in your flex positions, your forward, your guard, your utility positions that play late. Preferably, having a lot of salary on the table there, so that if something does pop up, late news that nobody else is following because they have 3 kids or they whatever, you can swap when other people cannot, or you have the presence of mind to be able to swap when others cannot. Gives you a massive advantage. One of the best ways for you to create advantage in NBA DFS, because this is a sport where we do see people kind of ruled out quickly, right? It doesn't happen with football. You get okay, practice days, you have a kind of an idea. Every once in a while, somebody will get, weird hand stuff going on. Sorry, YouTubers. Every once in a while, you'll get a weird thing where someone gets ruled out, immediately. You didn't have any news about it really whatsoever, but not really. Usually that's more of an NBA thing. But anyways, let's talk about, unfortunately, let's talk about what happened last time we met. Last time we went over an NBA slate. It was not pretty. My worst lineup of the entire season, so my bad. Sorry, guys. But what else can you do when you're touting, Trae Young as my top play? 3.9% owned, by the way. Was off to a really nice start, and he goes down with an injury that's going to keep him out for weeks now. And then the other guy I ended up landing on was Anthony Davis, who also left the game with injury. I stood no chance. No chance whatsoever on this slate, unfortunately. So yeah, that was a big bummer, but we'll do better this time around. That will put me down, $80 in the hole now. If you recall, that was the second show I gave you guys plays for on this podcast. The first one, I just barely missed, right? First one, we barely missed the money line. This one, we had no chance. It was just, unfortunately we got hit by the injury bug, but Craig Porter Jr. was on there. Didn't really do so well. D'Angelo Russell we were on, didn't do so well. Aaron Nesmith was a guy that I've been on every single slate, basically. He also crapped the bed, so just bad all around. Pascal Siakam had a nice one. I ended up on Tony Bradley, that decimated Pacers squad. He didn't really do anything that exciting. And then I lamented and played Russell Westbrook, I do remember. And, he also didn't really do that much. So just bad all around. So, I don't blame you if you're like, oh man, I don't know if I should listen to this guy. It will be better though. This is DFS. There's a lot of variance here. So I want to take a quick peek at, what did win this slate. Ray J. Davis was the pacer that you want to land on, it looks like, with 32.25 DK points there. Keontae George was a good play, and he's been an interesting guy all season long. Minot. I haven't been really on Josh Minot, but he was having a moment there. Now he's kind of cooled off, but he was kind of hot. Last time we talked, Josh Minot was a thing. Michael Porter Jr., interesting name there. We'll see, guys. Had a really good game. Nikola Jokic was just kind of a plug in there. Russell Westbrook did end up in the winning lineup. That's kind of the thing I was most curious about there. Just that cost savings at 4,500 was with the fact that he was getting so many minutes. It was he was over 80% owned, so it wasn't that hard to call. Pascal Siakam also not hard to call. He was two-thirds of the field owned him. And then Jarris Walker was the guy instead of Aaron Nesmith. So, Could have feasibly ended up here. I don't think I would have ever ended up on Minot. Just not a big Minot. I don't think now he's shown his true colors. I don't think he's a really good fantasy player, and his price has come up too. But at that time it was 4K, so maybe we could have ended up on him, but likely not. So yeah, that was last time. Again, we are going to not talk about that ever again. That was absolutely awful. And this slate, we're going to do a whole lot better. And, I've got some pretty interesting stuff going on. But yeah, we'll go game by game. And I will say, like I said, the early games really not that exciting to me. So we'll kind of go a little quickly through those, but I will touch on them. No worries. I know I got some hate mail to my very first show that I didn't talk about enough people, or I didn't have enough play. All these plays I passed over. What in the world? A big eliminating people out of your player pool should be a big part of your process. I'm not playing this guy. I'm fading this guy. This guy I'm not as excited about as the rest of the people. And then identifying people. Okay, I am more excited about this guy than the other people. So identify the chalk, right? We want to know what the chalk is. We want to know what chalk we're going to eat, right? What chalk we're going to put in our lineups. And we want to know where the pivot point is. Where's the point where, okay, we think the projection models are not necessarily valuing this guy where we think he might go, because we are humans that watch the game and understand how this game works from watching it for decades. Or, I want to go to this guy that's projected very similarly to this other guy, but his ownership is so low, it's a leverage point, right? These are leverage points. These are the pivot points that you want to identify. So there you go. Welcome to the pod, and welcome to DFS, I suppose. Let's talk about it. First up, we have Boston and Orlando. And my goodness, this is quite a snorefest, guys. I'm sorry to say, it's the third lowest total on the slate. Two just rather unimaginative teams, and just really nothing to be excited about. The offensively, they're not doing anything that exciting. There's not really any injury replacements going on. Again, I am recording this on Friday morning. It's currently 8:49 Central Time, so things will definitely change. Follow the news. But as it stands, nothing that exciting about this game. Boston is still a top 10 defense in defensive efficiency, in Orlando's top 12. So, definitely not a whole lot of upside here that I'm seeing. I am still waiting for my guy Derek White to iron out those shooting splits. His shooting splits currently look like Nick Young, shooting splits. It's kind of crazy. He is not. Let's take a look at what he's been doing recently, but he has not been shooting the ball very well. He shot 50% last game, but only on 8 shots. Before that, though, as you can see, 33%, 18%, 37.5, 25, 35.7, 33.3. The three-pointer is also 40% last game, but only 5 shots. Before that, it was 37.5, 20, 28.5, 25. They played Washington last game, so he only saw 29 minutes. Didn't have a big one. But I'm waiting for him to break out of that funk. So I suppose if you wanted a pivot here, if you really wanted to play this game, that would be a piece I would be kind of interested in. But yeah, he's just been not so good. Can he truly be a primary offensive weapon, or is he just a guy that's really good at cooking the other team's 4th or 5th best defenders? That's kind of what he's been with Jason Tatum on the floor. He's been the 3rd, 4th, 5th option on the floor, and sometimes that's all a guy is. That's what his ceiling is, and that's what he's going to be at his best. So, Neemias Queta is coming off of a big game for sure. And I'm not buying it. I mean, they played Washington, kind of a fluke, as you can see before that, not really doing a whole lot. Had a good game against Cleveland a while back in 26 minutes, where Boston was playing well and won. But, Orlando, Wendell Carter Jr., not the most, inspiring big, but then Gogo Patadze comes off the bench. Not like defensive monsters or anything like that. So I suppose you could jam Kate in, but there's so many other centers in here I'd rather play that I'm just not, I'm not going to be on this team. It's not really a team I'm interested in. On the Orlando side, we have, I'm keeping my eye on Suggs minutes, right? Suggs been capped at 20 minutes so far this season. He saw 21 a few games before that, but basically 20 minutes, right? I'm waiting for him to inch up into that 25 to 30 minute range. And once he starts doing that, he's going to be on in my pool of players. But as it stands with that minutes cap, and we don't have, unless we absolutely clear news, hey, his minutes cap's being lifted, he's going to play a full workload, whatever it is. I'm not going to touch this guy, but I am interested in him for sure. Bane, absolutely dreadful so far this season, and was kicked out of the last game, so he's an interesting guy just in terms of like, hey, this is a guy no one's going to be on. He could have a big bounce back. As you can see, he hasn't really had a big game. He had a really nice game in that first game, and since then he's been pretty mediocre. He's only 6.3 though, 6.3K, which is really nice. So it's pretty appealing to me. I think out of any play on this in this game, this would be the guy I would probably land on. But yeah, again, I'm just not. As a single entry player, I'm not going to be messing with this game. It's not a game I'm going to go into. So Cleveland and Washington, a little bit more exciting, but not too much more exciting. Did I screen anything up there? No, I didn't. Okay, good. So Cleveland, Washington. Cleveland are heavy favorites here with a nearly 14-point spread. It's a relatively high point total, but given the spread, it looks like it's probably going to be all Cleveland. All right, so Cleveland's going to smash Washington. Nothing newsy there, nothing newsworthy there, nothing like crazy with the line movement compared to where the public bet's coming in. So I have no problem landing on Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, or Jared Allen. I think out of those three, it's probably Jared Allen because he has the most attractive price point. So yeah, Donovan Mitchell's 9K, Evan Mobley is 8.9K, and then Jared Allen is 6.3K. So I have no problem here, landing on Jared Allen. I think he's really interesting. He has had a double-double, a really, really nice game in that last one against Philadelphia. Don't know if Embiid played that game or not. Either way, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's nice to see him doing that kind of thing. He fractured his finger, which was keeping him out. Obviously, that's not really, affecting him at this point. So it's not limiting him in any way. So, I think he's pretty safe there at 6.3K. But again, there's so many other centers I want to play later on in this slate that I'm probably not going to end up with him. But I do like him. I think he's a decent play. And I think same thing with Mobley and same thing with Donovan Mitchell. If you end up on those guys as your spend ups, I have no issues at all with that. It is an NBA Cup game. So, being an NBA Cup game, we should expect the starters to get full minutes. And there'll be less of that weird, sitting at the end of the games if they're up 20 points type thing. It's not that they want to like blow them out absolutely out of the water or, risk injury for that reason. But yeah. The point differential is definitely a point of emphasis here in the NBA Cup games. It goes head-to-head record and then point differential for tiebreakers. So it is something that does matter. So you'll see less of people sitting, later in games. They want to kind of drive up that score. Again, at what point does the arithmetic change for each team? Risk of injury versus driving up the score to win the NBA Cup. It's going to defer team to team, and there's really no way to like pin it down to a science. Maybe if we have more data points in 5-10 years, we can start doing some stuff like that and really get an edge. But at the moment, I don't have enough data points for us to really go off of with that, unfortunately. But yeah, so those are those guys on the Wizards side. I just have almost no interest. I think they're going to get their butts handed them pretty well. Obviously, Bilal Coulibaly is going to be out of this game. We saw before that with him being out that Keyshawn George had some really, really awesome, amazing games to start the season. Could return to form there. He is 6.5K, so it's not like he's super cheap or anything like that. But I got to keep your eye on for sure. I think he's a nice little large field GPP play if you really want to take a stab at this game. But yeah, not in a single entry. I'm just not going to go there. Moving on, we've got the Toronto Raptors against the Atlanta Hawks. Toronto? What am I, from Wisconsin? Toronto versus Atlanta. Now we're talking, man. This is actually an interesting game. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched, if you ask me. Should be competitive. The spread right now is under 2 points. So no Trae Young really evens these two teams out. I think Toronto's kind of a little bit of a slept-on team at the moment. They are playing competitively. Haven't been winning a ton of games, but they've been good recently. They are sitting on a 4-4 record. They're competitive. I mean, that's what I'll say. They stick in games. So lost to the Rockets by looks like 18 points, lost to the Spurs by 13, lost to the Mavericks by 10, lost to the Bucks by 6. So they're keeping things interesting. It's not like they're getting blown out by 20, 30 points. And that should be the case again tonight. Raptors could steal this one. I would, kind of curious to see what that spread ends up at, but not betting sides at the moment. So, but anyways, RJ Barrett on the Toronto side has been on an absolute tear. Let's take a look at him. He's been on an absolute tear here. 43.5 and 46.5 in the last two games, respectively. He is 6.9K, so he's not exactly cheap. There's another shooting guard small forward type I like later on the slate that I'm really pretty high on. So I'm probably not going to end up on him, but he is a stronger player than, say for instance, if you want to play Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is 7.5K, and I view them as having similar ceilings and similar floors, to be honest with you guys. I know Brandon Ingram stands aren't going to like that, but I do believe that these guys are very similar players, and you're getting RG Barrett $600 less. And when you're talking about DFS, I mean, that does matter. I mean, it's just risk versus reward, right? So what's the risk that you're putting out there? You're putting somebody in a slot, and the risk that you're putting out is represented by their salary. So the risk that you're getting with RJ Barrett is significantly less than Brandon Ingram at this stage. So I would play him over Brandon Ingram, but of course now Ingram's going to end up with like 45 and RG is going to end up with like 25 or something like that. And someone's going to say, well, you told me. But the thing is, that still won't sink you because I don't think that salary is super prohibitive. But again, this isn't my favorite play at shooting guard, but I do like him. Scotty Barnes is the one that has the big playability, of course. And I do like him quite a bit here. We've seen some, monsters from him, almost 60 points against the Dallas Mavericks, which are a good defensive team, and then 60 points against the Memphis Grizzlies, which are not a good defensive team. He gets Atlanta here, down a couple bodies. Atlanta does have some really good defenders, but I still think that, as you can see, played well against Dallas. Earlier against Atlanta, put up almost 50 DK points. So I don't think there's an issue at all ending up on Scotty Barnes. He is probably my favorite play in this entire, second favorite player in this entire game. But he's the star of the team. He's just notably not a usage monster, so you do have some risks there that's probably more so than other guys in the mid 8K range that have a similar upside. So not my favorite play on the entire slate, but in this game, he's probably my second favorite. I'm still waiting on Jakob Poeltl to kind of wake up from his slumber. Slow start to the season, then he was injured, not getting full allotment of minutes yet. So keep my eye on that situation. Not a guy I'm suggesting for DFS, just something to kind of keep on your radar. Just been an odd start to the year for him. So let's see how he rebounds from that. Hopefully he can nail down that starting center position and start to play like we know he can play, which is going to happen at some point. I don't know if it's here though. On the Atlanta side of the ball, if it was a smaller slate, I might consider him more as like a pivot, but I don't think you have to take that risk. On the Atlanta side of the ball, Dyson Daniels has been woken up by the absence of Trae Young. He's really started to turn it on recently, but his salary has also climbed. He's now 7.1K. From a shooting guard position, there's guys that are right around that price point that I'm higher on later, of course. As I said, the same thing about whoever that was earlier that was a shooting guard. But he has been awakened here a little bit, close to 40 DK points in 3 straight games. But again, that salary at this point is climbed to a point where it's like, okay, it's not that interesting anymore. But this is a fun kind of muddy game between the Hawks and the Raptors, where I could see him getting enough steals and boards to reach his ceiling. So he is really intriguing still to me. Zachary Richichet is more intriguing to me at the small forward position. He's only 4.3K, so that's part of what makes him more appealing. But he's also been woken up a little bit by the Trae Young injury, right? So he's gotten 20.8, 23, and 31 DK points respectively. But his price, as opposed to Dyson Daniels, has fallen. Started out at 5K, now he's down to 4.3K. Looking at the last 4 games. So I am interested in Zachary Richichet in this one. This is a nice little cost cutter. I don't see a whole lot of guys under 5K on this slate that I'm like pretty excited about. So that does make him stand out to me as a guy that I might just get in there as not necessarily a punt play, but just a nice low cost option with an attractive price point. But my favorite play on the Atlanta side has got to be Jalen Johnson, who is now the de facto star of the team. Not really a good game against Orlando. Not super surprising. Toronto, definitely not the same defense as it was before, where they were top-level elite defense, those Kawhi, teams and things like that. They don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore. They don't have, they don't have Pascal Siakam, so they don't have the same defensive prowess that they did at one time. Now they're rolling out, Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett. So, not the best defensive team. So Jalen Johnson is probably my favorite spend up, if you get to this by these first 3 games, right? Getting to this point in the slate when I was analyzing this was my favorite spin up at the time. There's a couple later on I like more, but he is a nice one here. He is the offensive catalyst for this team without Trae Young. For the Detroit-Brooklyn game, this is a nice, interesting kind of slugfest, I would call it. Excuse me. It is the second lowest total on the slate. The spread's a bit over 10 points in favor of the Pistons. Again, I think these 2 teams are interesting because Brooklyn, for all their warts, has kept things pretty competitive. People like to rag on them for being terrible. They've lost a lot of games, but they haven't been getting blown absolutely out of the water, which is pretty interesting and notable. We haven't seen that big 40-point loss yet or anything like that. So it's coming at some point later in the season once they start sitting guys that they're like Michael Porter Jr. And in this one, they're not going to have Cam Thomas, but we'll get there. Okay, let's talk about the Detroit side first. I'm always down for some Cade Cunningham. It is notable. Cade Cunningham's 10.4. I think it's tough to get to that price point personally. Honestly, I'm going with more of an even build all around. There's a lot of guys in that 7 to 9K range that I think are really attractive. I've already mentioned a few of them. So it's hard to get to them salary-wise. And it's also notable that when it comes to points allowed to offensive shot creators, the Brooklyn Nets are actually pretty high up there. They're actually one of the top teams when it comes to that. Now, part of that might be because these guys are not really playing full lot in minutes against the Brooklyn Nets. They're not taking them that seriously, but this is an NBA Cup game. Remember, this is an NBA Cup game. So we can't assume that they're going to take, get their full lot in minutes. So I think Cade Cunningham makes a lot of sense if you can get to that salary. It's not a problem at all. He seems to nearly be a lock for 50K, DK points. I mean, there's a couple games in the beginning where he was kind of down, but since then, the last 4, he's been really on a heater. And really doesn't seem like he's going to slow down, especially not against the Brooklyn Nets. Isaiah Stewart is a guy that we've all been on the last slate we were all on. Before that, he had a big one and nobody was on him. But he's 5.7K now. To me, that price point has gotten to the point where he's no longer a must roster player. It's still fine. It's not a bad player or anything like that. But at 5.7K, I mean, at best, you're hoping for 5x value there, and that's really hoping for a lot. I think you're probably looking at more like 4 to 5x value, which is still fine, like I said, but it's not anything I'm going out of my way to roster. Instead, I like a guy with a safer floor on the Detroit Pistons that I think has a similar upside or similar ceiling, and that's Oscar Thompson at 6.3K. And he's a little bit more expensive, sure. $600 more expensive than Beef Stew. But he gets a bump without Tobias Harris, just like Beef Stew does. And this is a spot where you should be able to take advantage of, some G Leaguers, again, getting a full allotment in a minute. So I do like Oscar Thompson here. On the other side, for the Nets, first guy I want to talk about actually is on the center position. I want to talk about Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton, if you recall, at the beginning of the season, I was saying, what's going on with his minutes here? They're kind of screwing with him a little bit and keeping him kind of out. I'm not sure if they were just trying to tank to start the season. I'm not sure if he had some kind of injury going on. I don't really know, but his minutes were kind of kept in check, maybe just foul trouble. But his minutes were a little bit held in check the first 4 games. And then the last 4 games that we've seen, it's been basically 30 minutes or more. So if we can, get 30 minutes or more against a guy that's in Jalen Duren that is not the best defender, he's physically gifted. Don't get me wrong. He has the, gifts and the physicality to be a nice defender in the NBA, but he hasn't been that so far. I don't think he's gonna be that in this game. So I do think Nick Claxton's really interesting, but really for the Nets, it all comes down to Michael Porter Jr. Right? No Cam Thomas. He's getting 20 plus shot attempts the last 3 of the last 4 games where he actually played. So all 3 games he actually played. I think we can pencil him in again for another 20 plus shot attempts. Hasn't really been shooting well from distance the last couple of games. But if that does turn around, as you can see, 11 shot attempts from distance, 12 shot attempts from distance. I mean, he's just jacking this thing up there, man. And more power to him. No doubt this is what he should be doing. Definitely the most talented offensive player on this Brooklyn Nets team, especially sans Cam Thomas. So without Cam Thomas at 7K, that price is not high. I mean, he's a must roster player. That price is not high enough in a single entry environment, which is what I'm playing. This is a guy, NBA Cup game. Brooklyn Nets are going to try to keep it competitive. Maybe he doesn't get the last 4 minutes or 3 minutes of play because they are getting blown out. That's a possibility for sure. But until then, he's going to pop. This guy's going to jack up shots left and right. And I've got no problem with it, right? So, yeah. We can see him go nuclear if he does end up hitting those shots, and it gets competitive. Then you want to try. You could storyline this. The Brooklyn Nets keep this competitive because Michael Porter Jr. goes off, and you can bring back a couple of Detroit players. You can bring back Jalen Duren or Oscar Thompson or Cade Cunningham or any combination of two or three of those guys. That's an interesting build for sure. Interesting. One other guy I want to touch on, though, here on this Brooklyn Nets team is Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann, I believe he's probable coming into this game. He's probable, so he should play. He's quietly strung together some really, really nice games. And basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row. And he's 4.5K. Again, not a lot of guys under 5K that I love on this slate. So that makes him valuable. I don't think the ceiling's there. He's definitely not a ceiling play. He's not a guy that's going to pop off or have a lot of shot attempts. Although 10 and 12 the last 2 games because the Nets stink and there's no Cam Thomas. But he's definitely an interesting floor play, I think, at 4.5K. So he should easily hit 5X value, I think, at that. But I just don't think that, he's got that 7, 8X, ceiling that some other people may have. On this slate, I don't know. There's not a lot of guys, again, under 5K that I'm like, okay, this guy has that 7, 8X for sure ceiling. So I could end up with him in my rosters for sure. Moving on to Houston at the Spurs. This is the lowest point total on the slate. So interesting game for sure. We just want to think about it like from a basketball standpoint. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I think it's going to be an interesting one. We've got Alperen Sengun on Victor Wembanyama. We have a Houston team that's really, Kevin Durant's there, a really interesting team from a roster construction standpoint. Curious to see what kind of waves they can make. I think they're going to make postseason pretty easily. I think they can make some waves in the postseason. You have Kevin Durant in your team. Anytime that's the case, I think that's, you can say that pretty comfortably. And then, of course, you got the Spurs, who are a little bit up and coming as well. Wemby's been down a little bit the last couple of games. Less inspiring roster for sure, all around. But you have Wembanyama. As long as you have Wembanyama, you've got the best player in basketball. I don't care what he's done recently. This guy's going to break basketball at some point. So, Kevin Durant, again, I think this is an excellent tournament play. He is going to, this is the wrong team. Houston. Kevin Durant at 8.2K. Oof, that's even less expensive than Jalen Johnson. And it has been a slow start to the season, no doubt about it. He's got one 50-plus game. He's got a 45.8. Other than that, it's, mid-30s. Last game was really a down one at 27 DK points, but they won the game. He's doing what they need to do to win. That's one of the issues with Kevin Durant, especially at this version of Kevin Durant and on this roster, is he doesn't have to do a whole lot. But the thing about it for DFS purposes and GPP purposes is that he can do a lot. Let's say everyone's struggling. Let's say the Rockets get down 15 points early because Wembanyama's going off. Kevin Durant's the guy that's going to pull him out of that hole. He's their go-to. I mean, come on. Who else on this team is their go-to scorer when they absolutely need? But Josh Okogie? Absolutely not. Hammond Thompson? No. Jabari Smith Jr.? Maybe Alperen Sengun in certain scenarios, but up against Victor Wembanyama? I'm talking to myself more and more as I'm talking to you guys. I'm talking to myself more and more into Kevin Durant being a nice pivot point. I mean, I don't assume he's going to have really high ownership, but he's very interesting at that price point. Very interesting. Still absolutely a baller. On the Spurs side, I'm not really interested in any more of these Houston guys just because of the game total. I think you end up on one of them. If you want to think Kevin Durant ends up playing hero ball, I think that's kind of the narrative I would go with there. On the Spurs side, I got a little bit more interest in a few other guys, not as much interest as I have in Kevin Durant, but Stephon Castle, 7,400. No Dylan Harper, should lock him into 35 plus minutes again. 7.4K is a salary, just had an incredible start to the season. 40 to 50 point DK points probably on the table here. Definitely a little bit more inconsistent than I would like, but also a little bit less expensive than some of the other guys that have a similar ceiling. So I think Stephon Castle is pretty good. The defenders on the Houston side are pretty stout, though, so it's not something I'm like over my heels about. Julian Champagny appears to be the guy getting all the minutes without Dylan Harper. So that's your injury replacement there. And yeah, he's just doing nothing with them. 33 minutes last game, 24 DK points. I mean, 5K salary. That's not even 5X his value. So I'm not interested in Champagny. Nope, nothing brewing there. Wemby, let's just talk real quick because he is Wemby. So we have to talk about him. He's on the slate. Anytime Wemby's on the slate, you have to consider him in some way. Am I playing him? Am I fading him? 12.3K, as I was saying, at the beginning of the season, he was 10.9, 11.4. That's just simply too cheap. 12.3, now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, this guy's priced about where he should be. So there's nothing really that attractive about it. It's a 9-game slate. I don't think there's a problem. If you want to say Wemby has one of those ceiling games, 70 plus DK points, I don't think there's a problem with that. And he could cook Alperen Şengün, no doubt about it. Alperen Şengün with those big hips, a lot of strength there, but not a lot of staying in front of people in the mid range or jumping out to the 3-point line. So, but they also have Jabari Smith Jr. who could give Wemby some issues. Not my favorite play, but he is a sleeping giant. I think you always have to consider him. If there's value that opens up on this slate, I do think that would be a guy that you can go to for sure. At the moment, I don't think it's reasonable though. Charlotte and Miami, there is some weird line movement going on with most of these bets on Miami and the line moving to encourage more bets on Miami. So some weird line movement going on here. It leads me to suspect that LaMelo Ball, who's questionable for this one, is playing. That would be my guess. Obviously, no Bam Adebayo on the other side, so that makes a little bit of sense. But I believe that Bam Adebayo news had already dropped when this original line came out. So I don't think that's moved it that much, if at all. So my guess is that LaMelo Ball is going to play here. Again, that's purely a guess. If he does play, he is an interesting low-owned option. No one's going to have him. Large field GPPs, I'd be all over him. Single entry, I'm not going to end up on him. Too much inherent risk there. Up against Davion Mitchell too, who's a really solid defender. So, excuse me, guys, sorry with the nose thing here. I think the most interesting matchup in this game is Kalkbrenner, who's played really well to start the season, versus Khalil Weir, because you're getting no Bam Adebayo, so you get a bunch of Weir. And, Khalil Weir definitely plays more like a, power forward than he does a center. Not a big body or anything like that. Plays more on the perimeter. So Kalkbrenner actually is really, really interesting to me. Very intriguing because we know that Ware is going to have high ownership. Ware just had a monster of a game. What was it? 41 DK points, right? Yeah, 41.2 DK points against the Denver Nuggets. That's pretty eye-popping. 5,600, his price did come up 500. I think a lot of people are still going to end up on him, though, as like, oh, this is a clear injury replacement guy. If things stay, right, if there's not a lot of injury news, I think this is a guy that's going to be really high owned. So I really doubt that he replicates that big game from the last one. He shot really well from the field, 4 of 6, 2 of 4 from beyond the line, 13 boards, which is really not something that, he does quite often. Last time he played 27 minutes, he had 9 boards, 9 boards. That's more in line with what we would expect. So 13 and 4 steals is also not something. I mean, steals have high variance anyways. So it's not something we're going to like absolutely bank on. So I think this guy could end up around 30 DK points, which is fine at 5.6. But if he does, and Kalkbrenner, who is 5,300, ends up with the same amount or even more, maybe it's 32, 33, 34, DK points. Really interesting pivot in this same game. That's my theory there. On the Miami side, of course, no Bam Adebayo. This team is the team that probably has the most. Let me see here. Yeah, the most. Second most opportunity due to injury loss. Because Bam Adebayo was a guy that they were absolutely feeding the rock to start the season, so he's very heavily involved here. Obviously, still no Tyler Hero. So the guy is going to pick up most of the slack. I think he's absolute lock as well. Is Norm Powell. Norm Powell, his price fell to 6.7K. Didn't shoot the ball well last game, 5 of 15, 4 of 8 from beyond the line, so that was really good. 23 points. But we've seen some absolute monsters from him. We've seen almost 50 points, DK points from this guy already twice this season. Then he was injured. Then he's had a couple of pretty quiet games. This is a guy I want to end up on. No Bam Adebayo. They're going to need some offense. Wiggins will get some ownership. Jacques Jr. will get some ownership for sure as injury replacement guys that are going to, have opportunity in front of them. Wiggins at 6.9K. But for me, I want to go Norm Powell. I think it starts Norm Powell, and then after that, everybody eats. Norm Powell is probably the most gifted offensive player of those guys I mentioned. Maybe you can make a case Wiggins is. He's definitely showcased some flash there. But consistently, Norm Powell is that guy. No problem with Wiggins or Jacques. But for the price per dollar, I want to go Norm Powell. And opportunity per dollar. Before I do move on, guys, I do want to mention, again, I know it's been a while since I did some podcasts, but I do have an NFL DFS show coming out here. I'm going to try to record that either this afternoon or tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, whenever I get a chance, because my house is quite full right now, and my kids are. So they're actually getting better. We're finally all getting healthy again. Fingers crossed. Let's hope this was the worst of it. And the last 2 months are just like this fever dream, and now I wake up and I'm just healthy for the next 4 months. Let's hope that happens. But yeah, when I get right around to it, I will get the NFL DFS show out. Please do give it a listen, a like, a watch. Even if you're not a big NFL DFS player or fan, do it for me, please, so we can get a little bit of love on the podcast, get a little bit of traction there going. We are starting to get some growth, which I'm really excited to see, but I'd love to see that accelerated. Okay, Dallas against the Memphis Grizzlies. This is a really interesting one for sure. Maybe the most interesting game on the slate for me personally. Somewhat low game total, but it should be a very competitive game. Anthony Davis is doubtful. I don't think he's going to play. Shouldn't play. Daniel Gafford is the guy I want to look at first on the Mavericks. No Anthony Davis. Dwight Powell was absolutely abysmal. If you guys remember, if you guys follow me on Tails, I am on Tails, by the way, if you guys are on there, which you should be. I absolutely clamored for the website I work for to get something like that where you can instantly follow somebody's bet, go straight to the book that they placed it on or whatever book you use that has the closest line and lock in that bet. That's Tails. And Tails is fantastic. Y'all should get on there. But I was on the Dwight Powell points over, and that didn't work out for me. He was absolutely abysmal. I don't think you can put this guy on the floor anymore. I would not be surprised. Dwight Powell saw 10 minutes that game. 10 minutes last game, 9 minutes in that game. I think I played him in. I don't think you can play this guy, more than 5-10 minutes. He's just so awful. So Daniel Gafford was on a minutes limit when he came back. Was supposedly on a minutes limit on the 3rd of November, around 20 minutes limit, but he played 25, and they said just screw it. Played him 25 again last game. Team that's hungry for a win, NBA Cup game. I wouldn't be surprised to see him creep up towards that 28-minute mark. And at 5K, yeah, I think you're playing Daniel Gafford against the Memphis Grizzlies team that really doesn't have a center and no real threat to stop the line. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. is, but I think he's going to get plenty of lob passes here. Gafford will. I wish they had a point guard. They need a point guard to get him some better looks, but I think Flagg's okay. Speaking of Flagg, also love him. Opportunities there. Opportunities absolutely there. 43.8 DK points in the last game. His price only came up $100. Look at this increased opportunity. He almost doubled his shot attempts from the game before with no Anthony Davis. Still not shooting well from 3, but that could turn around any game. There's a lot of variance there. Almost a double-double, 9 boards. I mean, there's no Anthony Davis. You're getting minutes without really a center on the floor because Dwight Powell's so terrible. So there's more opportunity there for boards. We've seen him have double-doubles in the past. He had a double-double in his very first game. I don't think the assists are ever going to be up there to get a triple-double, but he could get 3-4 assists, which would be nice. Cooper Flagg at 6.9K against a deflated Memphis team with no real great guard options to defend. I mean, their guard rotation is so decimated right now, and it's really not good anyways. Ty Jerome's out. Scottie Pippen Jr. would be a nice, kind of lengthy defender to kind of throw on Cooper Flagg, but he's not. He's out. He's not playing. So they're playing Cam Spencer and Javon Small and Cedric Howard a lot of minutes. Coward definitely an athlete, but I think Cooper Flagg is really set up for a lot of success tonight. So 6.9K. Yeah, I love Cooper Flagg in a highly attractive matchup. And going the other way, I mean, Dallas has definitely been a good defensive team so far, even without Anthony Davis. So, I'm not highly interested in Memphis. I think the one guy that kind of, I already mentioned him before, but Cedric Howard kind of stands out as like, okay, this is a fine play. At 5.5K, he's kind of priced at what he's going to give you. I don't think he's, got a massive ceiling. Any player can go off any given night, so you never know. But I think he's, somewhat interesting. People are betting the Grizzlies here to cover the spread, but I just can't. I don't think I can buy into this Memphis Grizzlies roster right now, the way it's constructed and also the way it's been playing, which is really bad so far this season. All right. My Chicago Bulls up against the Milwaukee Bucks. We've got weird movement here in the total line with a vast majority of the bets on the over, but the line is moving down. Don't have any insight really into why that is the case, but that is interesting. That gives me a little bit less interest in this game because it feels like maybe it's going to be a blowout. If it is, it's probably the Bucks blowing out the Bulls. Bulls have started the season really well. They've also been very lucky in terms of like opponent 3-point percentage. I mean, they have not guarded the 3-point line well, but teams are just missing against them. So there's been a lot of luck variance there. Fun team, exciting team, no doubt about it. But yeah, I could see Milwaukee blowing us out. I could see it happening for sure. Milwaukee seems to always have our number anyways. On the Bulls side, though, I do got to talk about my guy, Mr. Future All-Star, Josh Giddey. He's playing at All-Star level right now. No doubt about it. At 9.3K, he's putting up the same, numbers and the same ceiling that a guy like Victor Wembanyama at $3,000 more for his salary is putting up, which is crazy. So my kitty Giddey is, I probably shouldn't even say that because never mind. We're going to get off of that. But no, Josh Giddey has been playing out of his mind. In, NBA Cup game, Bucks are not necessarily a, powerhouse defensive team. You're getting a discount from guys like, Cade Cunningham. Okay. So a little bit more respect on Cade's name. He does have 11 triple doubles in his career, but not with the frequency that a Josh Giddey is going to have. Okay. So at $1,000 less, I would much rather play Josh Giddey. That's my take on it. Ayo Dosunmu is going to be back, I would guess, for this game. That's my guess here. Again, I have no hard evidence of that, but he is practicing, I believe is what the last update was. Well, he's questionable. Yeah, he was able to practice on Thursday, and he's traveling with the Bulls. So my inkling is he's going to play, and that's going to nerf a lot of his value. We were on Kevin Huerter. We were on guys like Trey Jones. Trey Jones, his salary's climbed to the point where it's like, eh. So Patrick Williams was a guy that potentially could have been closing out games that we were on. So it's going to nerf a lot of this value if Ayo does play. Keep an eye on it, but if he does, yeah, I'm not interested. Matas Buzelis is a guy that started off the season hot in DFS terms. People wanted to roster him like crazy. But with the way Josh Giddey's been playing, he's kind of taken a back seat, which is fine in terms of basketball. I think he still has a pretty high ceiling, but a little bit too risky for my opinion. So that's it for the Bulls. On the Bucks, they've got a pair of guys that just continue to give me nightmares, guys. These guys play really well against my Bulls, but Cole Anthony and Gary Trent, I'm probably not going to roster them. What am I doing here? There we go. Cole Anthony's 5K. Gary Trent is there you go, 4.9K. I just talked about how the Bulls have been lucky from three. We see this guy, Gary Trent had 10 3-point shots a couple of days ago or several days ago. For some reason, these guys just destroy the Bulls in their careers. I looked at their splits, and technically that's not the case, right? When it comes to their averages over, 10 to 19 games, whatever that was, they were pretty much in line with their averages. But the individual performances, they put up monsters, it feels like, against my Chicago Bulls. So yeah, that's it. And also another guy, and I don't think I'm going to roster him either because there's no reason to, but Bobby Portis, 5.2K. He's another guy that just absolutely destroys the Bulls, loves to unlock his final form whenever he plays the Bulls because of the whole punching Nikola Mirotic in the mouth type deal, and then the Bulls trading him away. So logically, there's nothing here that tells me there's a smash play on the Bucks except for, of course, the guy at the very top, Antetokounmpo. Again, I don't think I can free up this amount of space, but yeah, he's probably going to have a big one. The Bulls don't really have anybody that can stop him, especially not in the open floor. We don't have any athletic, absolute freaks. I mean, Matas Paselis is way too skinny to be that. He does block shots and is pretty fast, but he's so skinny and just Giannis is too powerful at this point in his career. Hopefully Matas can get. I mean, I'm not comparing Matas to Giannis. Matas is a much better shooter, and they're not the same player at all. But in terms of body type, the big long arms and skinny, you remember Giannis when he came into the league, very similar in that sense. And hopefully he can get to the point where Matas can, where he has a little bit more muscle, but he's not really a threat to Giannis at this point. Giannis should run roughshod over this Bulls team. And if that is the case, then it is a blowout. And 11.6 is definitely feasible. So that's why I'm probably going to end up on him, more than Victor Wembanyama if I do free up that space, which, I think some value will open up, which will allow us to get to these guys. All right, last play of the night, Utah versus Minnesota. All right, that's an interesting one. Not the most interesting in the world, but it's a 12-point spread, and it's moving a little bit more than you would expect for basically a 50-50 split in percentage of bets. It started as a 14-point spread, and it's coming down to looks like encouraging you to put bets on the Minnesota side. So, I think I would lean towards the Utah Jazz covering this one. I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than what that spread indicates, but not by much. There's not a whole lot of in here from a DFS standpoint. Nurkic, he's the guy that we've been on this Utah Jazz team the most, but now he's 6.3K going up against Rudy Gobert. Yeah, it's at the point where it's not must roster, that's for sure. Filipowski, Love, and Hendricks are the guys, mixing in the most without Walker Kessler. And as long as all three of those guys are there taking up minutes, I'm out on all three of them. They're just eating into each other's opportunity. I'm still waiting for Isaiah Collier here to come back and play some minutes, which will take away from Keontae George. Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to like here, guys. On Minnesota, assuming we can get a nice game out of these guys, Anthony Edwards came back, and that also killed a lot of the value. So a lot of these guys' price just came up because Anthony Edwards was out for a little bit of time. So, Dante DiVincenzo is too expensive. Mike Conley, I mean, he wasn't even in the rotation basically to start the year. He might go back to, 10 minutes max. He had 13 minutes. I mean, he's basically out of the rotation. So I would expect his minutes to come down. He's not exciting. These other fill-ins for, Jaden Daniels doesn't have the same opportunity when Anthony Edwards is back. So it just kind of kills all that value for us. Julius Randle, 8.5K. Not super excited. But the one guy I do like on the Timberwolves is Rudy Gobert. He should absolutely feast on guys like Yusuf Nurkic underneath the basket and, Filipowski. And who else are they rolling out there? They're rolling out why do I keep doing that? They're rolling out Kevin Love. I mean, Kevin Love can hold his own, but he can't play more than 15 minutes at this point in his career. Taylor Hendricks, no way. Yeah. I mean, Rudy Gobert is really a guy that you should be considering pretty heavily here because he is in the late game. He's 6.4K, so we can do that late swap kind of stuff I was talking about. And he gets a really attractive matchup here as well. So he's like the only guy on the roster that isn't affected by the return of Anthony Edwards. If anything, it helps him, right? There's more shots going up, probably a faster pace. So we get up and down the floor, more rebound opportunities. So yeah, I do think Rudy Gobert is an interesting choice at 6.4K, no doubt about it. But let's lock in. Let's lock in who are Keith's top plays so far on this slate before any news drops. Again, morning of Friday, the morning of the games, so things will change. Cooper Flagg. Opportunity there. Absolutely. Memphis is dreadful. Cooper's got some stuff to prove. Doesn't like losing. NBA Cup game. Play Cooper Flagg. Play Cooper Flagg. Powell. Norm Powell. Not Dwight Powell. Please not Dwight Powell. Norm Powell against an awful Charlotte defense. No Bam Adebayo. Should have plenty of opportunity as well. All starts with him on the offensive end. Him or Wiggins. Well, Wiggins, I think price per dollar or opportunity per dollar. I think it's Powell. Plug and play. Porter. No Cam Thomas. Again, opportunities there. Do I expect the Brooklyn Nets to be competitive? I don't know. I give it a 50-50 chance. Hopefully they are. And that will help Michael Porter Jr. reach his ceiling. But I still think the floor is still relatively decent. He's not a player that's going to go, 1 for 25. He's a seasoned veteran at this point. I do think that he's a safe enough floor that we can consider him a solid lock play. Daniel Gafford. We want to play Gafford with no Anthony Davis. Should get, again, I think he's going to creep up close to the 28-minute mark. As long as the Grizzlies can stay competitive in this one. There's just no other options. Derek Lively out. So Daniel Gafford's got to be my lineups. And then my favorite spend up on the entire slate so far, Mr. Josh Giddey. Playing out of his mind right now. Maybe he has a down game, but a down game from Josh Giddey is still close to 50 DK points these days. And the Bulls have a lot of excitement around them right now. Obviously won their first, NBA Cup game. Top of the Eastern Conference standings. Crazy comeback against Philadelphia. Let's see if we can get more magic, man. Let's see if we can do it. So those are my strong plays. My favorite pivot I also have on this slate, which I mentioned, is Kalkbrenner over Ware. I want to play Kalkbrenner over Ware. Given that we're playing, I'm just going to fill out this roster again just for an example. Given that we're playing 2 Dallas guys, we probably want to have a bring back in Memphis and hope that we reach that ceiling game with our guy Gafford and our guy Flagg. So if they want to keep it competitive, my favorite play in that game was, if you recall, Cedric Howard. That leaves us 4,300 for that last spot, which is a forward spot. Not my favorite. Again, it's really tough to find people that are that price tag. But there's a couple I mentioned. Richeche. Zachary Richeche is out there. You could go Paul Larson. You could. Who should have opportunity with no Bam Adebayo. Fontecchio is also interesting in Miami with no Bam Adebayo. Someone else is going to have to step up on that team, right? Maybe get to not Josh Kogi. Don't do that. So there are definitely options here for you for that last spot. I like that. I like this roster construction a lot. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Good luck out there. We're going to win this one. We're going to take down that GPP. We're going to take down all that money. Again, be on the lookout. I will post on my Twitter account, which is down here at DataDrivenOMS. Please do go follow me there. I will also try to post on the YouTube video once Dan gets it posted up there. Any thoughts I have about where to swap. So if you want to look there as well, go like and subscribe to the YouTube page so you can get those updates. But until next time, guys, hey, go get that money.